Hi, hello everybody, I'm Justin, this is Koopa, and welcome to Koopa's Corner. Today we're going to talk about Saturday night's main event, just this past Saturday. This is our post-show breakdown. Saturday night's main event, as we all are aware, is not a true premium live event. It's basically a glorified television special. That being said, let's just jump into the match card. We'll go over the match card. We'll talk about the matches, kind of what happened, recapping what happened, and then we'll sort of break down what it could mean for these superstars going forward. And then we'll, a little bit at the end, talk about the event as a whole. And it started off with Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. Now, I was personally pretty excited for this match. These are two huge name stars. I'm a huge fan of Drew McIntyre. I think he's criminally underutilized. And this match started off decently. However, Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton both ended up taking a backseat to the larger story at play here, which was unfortunate. And the larger story at play here was the involvement of Jelly Roll and Logan Paul. Logan Paul came out in Drew McIntyre's corner. Jelly Roll came out in Randy Orton's corner based off of a segment on SmackDown. And essentially, Jelly Roll stopped Logan Paul from interfering in the match. And then, that caused a distraction, which caused Drew McIntyre to lose. And then, Logan Paul was in there beating up Randy Orton afterwards. Jelly Roll came in and made the save. And then Drew McIntyre hit him with the Claymore, which caused Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce to lose their minds. And they were shouting at Drew McIntyre, having a nice old screaming match there. Later in the night, a tag team match was made official for SummerSlam. It's just going to be Jelly Roll and Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. Now, personally, I'm not a fan. I'm not. I don't normally like celebrity involvement in the WWE. They are not trained to wrestle in the same way. They don't have the experience. They don't have the repetition. It's just never as good. And I think it's very niche. I understand the idea of, okay, great. Hey, we're going to have this celebrity come in, and then all of these people who are fans of that person are going to start watching our product. We're going to have more eyes on the product. It's going to just elevate our status a bit. And I understand the thought process behind that. But for me, it's very niche, right? Because I'm not always a fan of all these other people, so them coming in doesn't really mean anything to me. I'm a fan of the WWE. I'm a fan of Drew McIntyre and of Randy Orton. I only know Jelly Roll from his involvement in the WWE. I don't listen to his music outside of the WWE. I don't care that he's here, and I don't care that he's performing. I think it's going to drag down Drew McIntyre and drag down Randy Orton. But hopefully they're able to sort of hide his inabilities as far as, technical ability goes. Because it is a tag match. Hopefully Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre will do the bulk of that. I also think it's a great sign for Drew McIntyre that they are trusting him in such a high-profile spot. And Randy Orton, but Randy Orton is, such a seasoned veteran and such a legend that it almost doesn't matter. He can sort of do no wrong. He's one of the biggest stars in the company. Whereas Drew McIntyre, he sort of flirts with that main event scene, and sometimes you're like, come on, give him a little bit more of a push, and sometimes he's just like on the precipice there. So it's great to see, as a fan of Drew McIntyre, to see him entrusted with such a high-profile spot, right? Hopefully this is just kind of a one-off for SummerSlam, and then they're able to move on after that. But that's my personal opinion. I want to know in the comments, guys, are you excited, yes or no? Jelly Roll is going to be wrestling a match. So next up for Saturday night's main event, there was a brief announcement that Bianca Belair was going to make her return. Right as they were showing different people in the crowd, they showed Jade Cargill, who was attacked from behind by Naomi. Then Nick Aldis came out he introduced, hey, it's not just going to be a no-holds-barred match at Evolution. It is going to be a special guest referee no-holds-barred match at Evolution. And Bianca Belair made her return. So that's going to add a really interesting dynamic for Evolution. By the time this comes out, it's probably after Evolution. But I'm pretty excited for Bianca Belair to return. In our preview and predictions, we talked about that as a possibility. They just were upfront about it, and she's going to be special guest referee. I think the implications are huge for Evolution and that match, and also for Bianca Belair coming back. I think that's going to inject some much-needed life and excitement and energy into the women's division, so especially on SmackDown. We also had ourselves a fun little United States Championship match. This match was not great. It was better than Jimmy Uso's match against Jey Uso at WrestleMania. Definitely was. Yeah. This was Jey Uso trying to win the United States Jimmy Uso trying to win the United States Championship from Solo Sikoa. So it was brother versus brother. Ended up being, like I said, a lot better than the other brother versus brother at WrestleMania. But the match itself was not great. It was the same old with a new bloodline. Just all sorts of outside involvement. They really did a good job of making Talatanga seem like the standout, right? Not JC Mateo, but Talatanga. And he was even willing to, come out and almost get in the ring when they had steel chairs at the end. But really, the biggest thing of note in this match was the return of Jacob Fatu, who really hasn't been out that long. I hate calling it a return. Someone takes 2 weeks off and they call it a return. But yeah, Jacob Fatu came out, made the save, post-match. So he's still going to be involved. We might get a third iteration of the Bloodline with Jacob Fatu and Jimmy Uso, and who knows, maybe Jey Uso can go back with them, and who knows where it'll go, but we might even get, like I said, a third iteration of the Bloodline is possible. Or it's possible that they keep kind of just all doing their own thing, right? All right. Let's see, there was, what other match was there? All right. Oh, Seth Rollins and LA Knight. This was huge, because the match barely got going and Seth Rollins landed weird. He sat in the corner for a couple of minutes talking to the doctors and the trainers. Then he ate a BFT. 1, 2, 3, it was over. The match barely went anywhere. To me, that says this is a legitimate injury and not a storyline injury. And that sucks, especially because Seth already busted his knee up a few years back, kind of with the same thing, kind of landing from a backflip. And he was out for a long time. And you also hate to see somebody re-injuring the same injury over and over and over, because it's a lot less likely that they're going to heal or they're going to heal well. It's going to probably give him a lot of problems for the rest of his life. So very unfortunate to see Seth Rollins get injured like that. And it's a shame, man. And he's such a heavily featured superstar on Raw. The entire episode of Monday Night Raw was basically built around his faction this past week, right? Past couple of weeks even. It's this really, really unfortunate timing and really just an unfortunate thing to see. Even the people you don't like, you don't want to see them get injured like this. And I like Seth Rollins. I think he's a really good wrestler. So it's a big bummer. LA Knight got the W at the end of it. Hopefully he can slingshot that momentum forward into something more meaningful. But yeah, you don't really want to talk about, the quality of the match in a situation like this, because it's clear the match wasn't intended to go that way. It was a brief, abrupt end due to a legitimate injury. So just sending the best to Seth Rollins for a speedy recovery. And then finally, the main event. Goldberg had his retirement match against the Ring General, Gunther. and Gunther was defending his World Heavyweight Championship, and it was a decent match. It wasn't a great match, but it was decent, and it was a lot better than I think it had any right to be. I think it was a lot better than most people expected it to be. The only thing really of note here was Goldberg's little farewell speech at the end was cut off as the show went off the air. They ran over a little bit and his speech got cut off. Goldberg, a huge legend through the late 90s, early 2000s, vital in the Monday Night Wars, vital in WCW, being as popular as it was. And here we are all these years later. He's hanging up the boots once and for all. So, I mean, at his age, it's probably for the best. But you don't really get too many of those moments where people willingly, voluntarily step away, and it's not like an injury-forced retirement. So, it's good for Goldberg to have lasted this long, even if he wasn't an active competitor this whole time. And, he's a legend, whether you liked him, whether you didn't like him. If you go back and watch, prime Goldberg, peak Goldberg, he was very entertaining. So I also think that Gunther getting the win was the right call. Being able to say he put out Goldberg, and being able to maybe use the "you're next," thing going forward. I think it does a lot to elevate Gunther, and God, he needed it. He's took a couple big losses this past year, starting Crown Jewel with Cody Rhodes and WrestleMania with Jey Uso. A couple big losses for Gunther, and it really, really hurt his aura, really just diminished his star power. So this was a huge, much-needed win for him, and hopefully he can kind of start going on a tear again, because Gunther is also one of the best characters that they have. So that's pretty exciting for that. And that was Saturday night's main event. Now, as a whole, I think this was plagued by some of the things that we've been seeing a lot lately, where there's a little too much advertisement, too many commercial breaks, too many logos in the ring and outside the ring and on tables and ladders and chairs and every item and every foreign object. It's too much. It's becoming a distraction. And yeah, this was very difficult to get through because of the amount of commercial breaks, killing the momentum of the show. But aside from that, the wrestling itself was pretty decent in the 3 matches that were able to play out as planned. And from a storyline perspective, it moved things along, which is exactly what it needed to do. So this was a fine edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. Again, guys, let me know in the comments whether or not you're excited about Jelly Roll wrestling a match. Personally, I am not. And, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.